Hi, I'm Kat, and today I'm showing you how to make this miniature grand piano. This is a gift for someone, and this is part one of two. It's a little larger than most dollhouse pianos would be, but it's intended to be like almost a concert piano. So I hope you enjoy. Now I'm using a template that I actually got online from the Blue Book of Pianos. And this particular template I sized out to be 4.5 inches on the width and 6 inches on the length. Of course, 1/12 dollhouse scale, that does translate to 4.5 feet by 6 feet. So it is a little bit longer than a typical, 5-inch piano or 5-foot piano. So now I'm using a 332 sheet of balsa, and this one is about 3 inches wide, so I'm going to have to add on a little bit extra for the extra 1.5 inches. I cut out the shape of the template on both sheets and glued them together. I did this twice, one for the lid and one for the floor of the piano. And then going ahead and put the lid to the side. You don't need that right now. I measured from the curve all the way around. And then I'm using a 1/16 sheet of balsa, and I'm going to cut this into two strips. Now, because my length all the way around the curve was 11.5 inches, I went on ahead and cut out 12 just to be sure. And then each one is 1.5 inches thick or wide, and then 6 inches long. I'm going to cut this in the smaller chunks as I go, but for right now, I just wanted enough to put it in some water. And I'm weighting it down with some binder clips just to make sure it sinks all the way through, and I left this overnight. You can choose to actually put this in with the grain of the balsa, and that way you don't have to soak it. That's one step you can skip. I went against the grain, that way it's a little bit stronger. And I'm using super glue to glue this in place because I really wanted to stick that curve to begin with. And this to me was the hardest curve on the whole thing. So I went on ahead and blotted my balsa dry, and before it was fully dry, I went on ahead and put that in place and put a large bottle there and rubber banded it around it. And then piece by piece I added the rest of it, maybe about in 1.5 to 2 inch chunks each, allowing every single piece to dry in between. Then I cut little L-shaped pieces, and this is going to fit the keyboard, so 2 of these. And because I decided, as I said before, this is a gift, I decided I'd go ahead and do an interior for it. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and paint this gold to begin with. Now the inside of a lot of pianos can be brown or gold, or a really glossy wood tone, or black, or whatever else, or even red. So I'm just going with the gold in this case. And then I'm making sure the lid would fit, but I'm taking all that excess and cutting it off. Now I'm going to reserve mine. This is going to become my keyboard later. And then I took another sheet of balsa in the 1/16 and cut inside of the lid. Now I'm using a super jumbo popsicle stick to put in little partitions, and this is just going to boost the floor up. And then I cut that little doohickey. I don't know what it's called, but it's on the pictures of all the Google images I searched, so I decided to make one. And I used some of the scrap wood that I had hanging around, and then I used my X-Acto knife to cut the holes in. But then I went through with a rolled up piece of sandpaper and rounded them out. And then for the stringing on the inside, I'm using embroidery thread. This little skein has 12 pieces total in there, 12 little threads total in there. So I just took it apart and used all 12 pieces. That way you still have that nice metallic silver, but it's thinner than fishing line. And I just stretched that across the board. And as you can see, my board has already been painted and glazed. And I glued and taped everything onto the back. And glue the whole thing down. Next, I'm using this little doohickey, whatever this is, and I painted it gold, and I actually put popsicle stick pieces on the back. That's just going to raise it above the floor. And then I'm using some thinner coffee stir sticks or skinny sticks to make the little wooden pieces on the inside. I was trying to keep it true to the pictures I saw online, and they all have little curves on them. I don't know what it does. I don't play piano. I play clarinet, so I don't really know that much about pianos at all. But I just replicated what I saw, and in this case, there were little wooden things on the inside, so I went on ahead and made those. And again, these are made of coffee stir sticks. I cut the little curve in them and glued them in place, and everything I painted before I put down in order to keep from damaging the string. And then I'm using a jumbo popsicle stick to reinforce both ends of my lid. And then I glued hinges all the way across on one half of the lid. And then I glued hinges across the other as well, once that glue dried. Just be careful not to get glue along the hinges. And then I took the nails that came with the hinges and I put them in alternating every other hole. If you put them in every hole and you try to close it, literally the nails will butt heads. So you don't want to do that. You just want to alternate, and that way they have a space to fully open and close, because if all the nails are in place, it will not. And then I etched out where I wanted my other hinges to go at the opening. And then I cut out a little bit of the balsa there, but just a tiny bit. Normally I would need to cut out a lot more, but because the piece was so thin, I just decided to reinforce it instead. So I'm using an extra piece of stir stick to do so. And now you can see that the front opens and closes, and the lid opens and closes as well. And that's it. Stay tuned for part 2, guys. Bye.